In 2001, the seventh largest company in America collapsed in 6 weeks. It was worth nearly $70 billion at its peak. Fortune magazine had named it the most innovative company in America 6 years in a row. Wall Street's smartest analysts had a buy rating on it almost to the very end. And when investigators finally opened it up, they found the debts hidden inside a maze of imaginary companies. Some of them were literally named after Star Wars characters. Chuko, Jedi. Nobody made that up. It's in the court records. This is the story of Enron, the collapse so big that the scams we've covered in this series get compared to it. The cleanup lawyer from our FTX episode, the one who said FTX was the worst he'd ever seen. Enron was the fraud he was famous for cleaning up first. This is the original. Explained as always so simply a 5-year-old could follow along. Enron started boring. It was a Houston pipeline company. It moved natural gas through tubes and it charged money for it. Real tubes, real gas, real money. Its founder, Ken, was friendly with presidents and loved by Houston. And in the 1990s, he hired a consultant named Jeff, a man so confident that when he was asked in a job interview whether he was smart, he reportedly answered, "I'm effing smart." Jeff had an idea that would change everything. Stop being a gas company. Become a market. Instead of just moving gas, Enron would trade it. Buy it, sell it, bet on its price, like Wall Street bets on stocks. Then trade electricity, then trade anything, paper, metals, weather, even future internet bandwidth. Enron slapped a trading desk on the entire physical world. Analysts swooned. This was the new economy. Now here's where the 5-year-old version begins, because the whole fraud starts with one accounting trick that sounds tiny and isn't. It's called mark-to-market. Imagine a kid opens a lemonade stand in January and signs a deal to sell lemonade to his neighbor every summer for the next 20 years. Normal accounting says record the money as it actually arrives, cup by cup, summer by summer. Mark-to-market says estimate all 20 years of future profit right now and write it in your notebook today as money you've already made. Enron got permission to use this for its energy deals. Think about what that means. Sign a deal today, book 20 years of imaginary future profit today. The notebook shows a fortune. The actual cash? Not there. Maybe never there if the estimates were wrong. And who made the estimates? The same people whose bonuses depended on the estimates being big. So every quarter, Enron's notebook said, record profits again. And every quarter, the actual cash drawer stayed strangely light. That gap between the story in the notebook and the cash in the drawer is the entire Enron story. The question was how to hide the gap, and the answer is the part you'll tell your friends about. Meet Andy, the chief financial officer, the man whose actual job was minding the drawer. Andy built the imaginary friends. Here's how it worked in kid terms. Your lemonade stand has borrowed a lot of money and made some terrible bets. A juice machine that doesn't work, a delivery wagon that lost a wheel. If the grown-ups see all that junk and debt in your stand, they'll stop lending you money. So you invent a friend. Let's call him Chuko, because Enron literally did. You put your broken juice machine and your debts in Chuko's backyard instead of yours. Now your stand looks clean. When the grown-ups inspect, they see a tidy stand and a mysterious neighbor kid holding all the garbage. One catch. The rules said an imaginary friend only counts as a separate company if real outsiders own a slice of it, at least 3%. Andy's structures repeatedly failed even that tiny test, hidden behind side deals and secret guarantees. The friends weren't independent at all. They were Enron wearing a fake mustache. Hundreds of these entities, Chuko, Jetty, the Raptors, LJM, which Andy ran personally, paying himself tens of millions in fees from the very entities that were supposedly independent of him. The referee for all of this, the auditor Arthur Anderson, one of the 5 most trusted accounting names on earth, signed off year after year, while also collecting enormous consulting fees from Enron. The watchdog was eating from the burglar's hand. By 2000, the notebook said Enron was unstoppable. The stock hit $90. Employees were encouraged to stuff their retirement accounts with it. Executives, meanwhile, were quietly selling over $1 billion of their own shares. Remember that asymmetry. The people who could see the drawer were selling. The people who could only see the notebook were buying. And the culture had one commandment: keep the stock up. Ask a hard question on a conference call, and Jeff, now the chief executive, would mock you. In one infamous call in 2001, an analyst pressed for a basic financial statement Enron never seemed to produce, and Jeff called him an asshole on a recorded call. Wall Street laughed nervously. It should have run. Then the imaginary friends started collapsing under their own garbage. The Raptors, entities designed to absorb losses, were themselves stuffed with Enron's own stock. When Enron's stock fell, the airbags were made of the same falling stock. The math ate itself, exactly like Tara's death spiral, 7 episodes early. Inside the company, a finance executive named Sharon wrote Ken a now famous memo. "I am incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals." She was right on schedule. Jeff abruptly resigned in August of 2001, citing personal reasons after selling tens of millions in stock. In October, Enron announced hundreds of millions in losses and quietly erased over $1 billion of shareholder value tied to the imaginary friends. The government opened an inquiry. Then Enron restated years of profits. Much of the notebook had been fiction. The market did what it does when belief dies. Everyone asked for their money back at the same time. You know this part now. Credit dried up, a rescue merger collapsed, and on December 2nd, 2001, Enron filed what was then the largest bankruptcy in American history. The stock that hit $90 traded for pennies. 6 weeks, start to finish. 20,000 employees lost their jobs. Many lost their retirements with it because their accounts were full of Enron stock, and during part of the collapse, the accounts were locked while the price fell. Reporters found executives had walked away with hundreds of millions, while secretaries lost everything. If one image explains why this story still makes people angry, it's that one. And the watchdog, Arthur Andersen employees shredded literal tons of Enron documents as investigators closed in. The firm was convicted of obstruction, and though the conviction was later overturned, it didn't matter. Andersen was finished. One of the big 5 accounting firms on the planet, dead of one client. 28,000 American jobs went with it. The reckonings. Andy, the architect of the imaginary friends, cut a deal, testified against his bosses, and served about 6 years. Jeff was convicted of fraud and insider trading in 2006 and spent over 12 years in prison. Ken, the founder, was convicted too and then died of a heart attack weeks later before sentencing, so his conviction was legally erased. And Congress passed a law, Sarbanes-Oxley, that still governs every public company in America. Every audit rule that made later frauds harder to hide exists because of this one. So what does the original teach us that the copies haven't already? First, profits are an opinion, cash is a fact. Mark to market let Enron print opinions and call them earnings. Whenever a company's reported profits soar while its actual cash keeps shrinking, the notebook is lying to the drawer. That one comparison, profits versus cash, would have flagged Enron years early. Second, complexity is a costume too. Elizabeth wore a turtleneck. Enron wore 10,000 pages of structures with sci-fi names. When a company's finances are too complicated for smart people to follow, the complexity isn't intelligence, it's fog. Nobody hides good news. And third, watch what insiders do, never what they say. Jeff said the company was in the best shape of its life as he resigned and sold. Executives sold $1 billion of stock while telling employees to buy. The mouth talks to the notebook. The hands always deal with the drawer. The scam never changes. This time it wore a Texas smile and a Fortune magazine cover, and it hid its garbage in the backyards of imaginary friends named after space movies. If you want more true stories like this, drawn badly on purpose and explained simply on purpose, subscribe. Next time, the video game store that broke Wall Street when an army of internet jokers took on the world's most powerful hedge funds and, for one impossible week, won.